So I'm Derek, and this is a story about how my life got turned upside down. I totally forgot what I was going to say. I was going to sing the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and then I just dropped it. All right, so scratch that. Sorry. Oh, man, dropped the ball already. I'm nervous. All right, so this is the second time I've done my testimony here, and I've done it a lot when I was talking to schools and stuff. So I've always focused on the bad, the hurt, and then I wouldn't glorify or talk about all the drugs and all that, but I would definitely let everyone know where I was, And I was focused when I would tell my testimony on all the negative, right? I didn't, because last time I did my testimony was over a year ago, real close to a year, So I seen a lot of God, but I was still growing my spirituality with God. So I'm going to go over the timeline, and what I'm going to talk about is pre-JCAP, JCAP, and I'm going to try to focus more on life after JCAP, all right? And there's a big transition in my heart and in the way I try to live now after JCAP. So when I was younger, I'm not going to go into details, this is like 3rd grade to 7th grade, I believe. Sexually assaulted, molested by, he was my elementary school basketball coach. He was a teacher, and he was a reserve cop, okay? I mean, this happened for years. He manipulated me, my family, all that. So that happened for a long time. So I'm always living a double life. I got my home life, and then I got my school life. School, everything's fine. All my friends, everything's fine. At home, to my parents, everything's fine. For a long time, I didn't know that this was wrong, I didn't know. I was a young kid. When I started questioning it and started piecing things together at school, like, hey, this isn't right, then I started acting different at home, and then my parents thought something was up, but they didn't know. So that being said, that was through 7th grade, all through high school, just mad, bitter. It came out when I was a freshman in high school to the public. I had to go through a trial. I failed out of school because I was out of school for like 2 weeks. I had to stay in a hotel room. My dad and mom could come visit me once a day, Had no outside contact, couldn't have my phone, couldn't talk to my girlfriend, none of that. So I was mad about that. Then I was the youngest person out of like 30 people he did this to, 30 kids. I was the youngest one, the only one that would testify. So I'm like, okay, as a man, I have to take care of this for all the people that don't have, the power to stand up. So I did that and just fueled football with anger. That was my outlet. Football, anger. I didn't, get into necessarily the hard drugs in high school, but I did do the partying. I was the one that had the alcohol. I was the one that had the pot all through school. If I didn't get my class or my homework done in high school, I didn't get it done. Still had A's and B's. A couple C's here and there, other than freshman year when I failed out because I missed so much school, So fast forward, in and out of jail, went to college, went to a good college, failed out of that, and back home, in and out of jail. I didn't start really going to jail until I was like 23, but it just progressively got worse. We all know the progression. It just starts here, it seems to be fun, and then you get in trouble. Everyone slows it down a little bit, but then it ramps right back up because you never really think you have a problem, right? I didn't anyway. I didn't think I had a problem. I still went to work every day. I still paid all my bills until the last hurrah. I didn't have nothing left. I didn't pay my bills. My house went back. My truck went back. So let's see. I've been incarcerated right now. I'm on the ankle monitor still. Everybody knows that. But I was in the county jail for a little over 2.5 years. Work release for over a year and a half. Home detention for 8 months. So March 18th, I'm done with everything. Finally. My wife is ready. I don't know if I am, because she's very intimidating. She's an intimidating woman. Beautiful, but she's going to be on a strict leash, No, she's great. So JCAP happens this last time I was incarcerated. Actually, this time I was incarcerated, I headbutted a guard, broke his nose, caught another level 5, came in with, a laundry list of drug charges, needles, paraphernalia, all that crap, So I I had all the typical. I never really had to steal, so I never got any theft charges or anything because I was always working. So needless to say, I headbutted this guard, did my time. I had to go to Elkhart for 30 days to finish up some sentence there. So after I headbutted the guard, I was in the hole for 2 weeks. And then Elkhart called me, and I'm like, sweet, I don't have to be in the hole anymore, right? Go to Elkhart for 30 days, come back, go right back to the hole. About headbutted another guard because I was so mad I had to go back to the hole. So I'm going to have a reason to go back to the hole. That's how we are. If we're in trouble, we're just going to bury it. Just bury it. Let's make it worth it, That's how I've always been. So that's kind of how my attitude was. I'm just going to make everything worse. I'm going to keep piling it on. It can't get any worse. And if you keep piling it on, it gets worse, doesn't it? Yeah. So wasn't thinking clear, even though at this point I've been clean 8-9 months in jail, but what are you a product of? What you surround yourself with, right? 90% of people in jail, unfortunately, they don't want to change, right? So if you surround yourself with those types of people, even on the outside, is who we surround ourselves with. So got denied JCAP 3 times. On the 4th time, I finally got it, right? Hoorah, JCAP 8. And halfway through it, this is a 4-month program. A lot of people know about the program, so about 2 months, I'd say anywhere from 45 to 60 days in. I'm going through the motions. How many times have we went through the classes, MRT, all those anger management classes? How many times have we gone to the Bowen Center because it's court ordered, right? A lot, for me anyway. And I knew the information. I never really applied it, I never took it to heart. I was forced to be here. I wasn't in the mindset to take in the information and actually use it. I could remember things, because I was always athletically smart. Real smart, aren't I, guys? Woo! Academically smart. I didn't ever have to try to get passing grades, so I didn't have to try in this class to skim by. I was always good because I got manipulated. I learned how to manipulate at a very young age, and very good at it. So I could always tell people what they wanted to hear and do all these things. And man, it's never hurting them. That's what we got to know. If we're fooling them, you're really only fooling yourself. Let's just put it that way. You're not helping yourself. They're trying to help you. And 9 times out of 10, we think they're just out to get us. They're trying to help us. And that's my perspective change from JCAP. And I always hated cops because he was a cop. I always hated authority because he had authority over me. So I hated all these things that we got rules to follow. Regardless, I got rules to follow at work. I got rules to follow at home. I got rules to follow, the Bible's got a set of rules. We fall short of those every day, right? But thanks to grace, So my testimony through JCAP, 4 months, the first 2 months, I'm just telling everybody what they want to hear. I was like, cool, I'm not going to have to go to prison. I'm going to go to work release. I'm going to go to home detention. I'm going to get out of here, the next step. So I'm just telling everybody what they want to hear. Same thing, rinse and repeat that I've always did. Had this one person, and his name was Pastor John Bryan Lowe III. He's our pastor now. JB is what I call him. He's actually one of my dear friends now, a good friend of mine. But I've never seen him angry per se, but he could just look at me and he just said it in a voice that was stern, like he was my dad, but he was like the age of me. He's only a few years older than me, about 10 years, So he seems like he's my age, He's young, hip, cool, fun. He's whatever, So he finally said to me about 2 months in, he's like, dude, I'm not dumb. And when are you going to see yourself like everybody else sees yourself? And I sat there. I didn't say nothing to him. It was the end of his session because he was teaching Celebrate Recovery and JCAP every Tuesday. So he came there, was teaching JCAP or Celebrate Recovery and JCAP for 2 months. Finally, I'm answering all the questions. I'm doing everything. I'm acting like I love Jesus and all this stuff. And I'm just doing it for an image, okay? Just what people see of me, what people think I'm doing, what people, me. How do I convince them that I'm doing better? So 2 months in, he's like, I wouldn't say angry, but you could see the in his voice. It was anger. I'm going to lie. It was anger. It was a nicer anger than I've ever showed, but it was anger. He was frustrated. And it wasn't just me, there's a couple other people. He's like, when are you going to see yourself the way everybody else does? We don't come in here loving on you guys because we think you're just a convict, you're just an inmate, you're just a felon, you're just a drug addict, you're just worthless, you're just all these things that we think about ourselves. All the leaders here, everybody that was in JCAP, everybody at the church, like they don't see us as that. Most people in society really don't. They want to see us help ourselves and help us. A lot of them don't know how. No, don't get me wrong. There's some bad apples out there that are going to look down on us, and they always will. But that's everywhere. We're never going to get over that. If anything, it's going to get worse when your spirituality and your relationship with Jesus gets better. The stronger that relationship gets, the more the world hates you. That's scripture. That's written. I can't quote it, okay, but Google it. Google knows a lot more than I do. It's in there somewhere. So JB said that, and then he just turned around, didn't really give me a chance to respond, just walked out. Hit the button, walked out. And he didn't come back for a week. So I'm sitting here in jail, going through all these classes. I start looking at these teachers differently. I'm like, okay. I don't know what you're doing yet, but I'll find out. I'm still trying to figure them out. Ironically, they're just there to help me, They're just trying to help me. So the transition got real. The last 2 months, it was, everything I said was pure. I started asking real questions, started having real concerns. I quit bull crapping my relapse prevention plan that I had. And I was like, well, this is a real thought. What? I do a lot of dumb stuff. I like to do action sports. I hunt. I work construction. What if I get hurt again? Because my drug of choice was heroin. I didn't say that earlier. What if I get hurt again? What if I break a bone? I broke legs. I broke wrist. I broke finger. What if I break a bone? Where you go to the doctor and you got a broken bone? They give you stuff. And I was scared to death about that. And I actually talked to JB. I was like, it might not have been JB. I think it was Luke. It might have been Luke, our fitness director. I think it was Luke. But I was like, dude, what do I do if I'm working out, sprain my knee to the point where it's bad, or I pop an ACL? And he's like, well, you need to have enough courage to know to tell your doctor. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, some things you're just going to need meds for, but you don't have to have the prescription to take yourself home with, right? Do over-the-counter at home, ibuprofen, 800s or whatever they are, something that's over-the-counter medicine, or give it to someone you trust if you have to have a take-home. So it was a real relapse prevention plan. When I started thinking of myself, it's even a glimpse of what these people were thinking of me as, like they're trying to help me. And I started actually receiving the help. So that was my mindset. Okay, maybe I'm not just this convict, felon. Maybe I can do something. So that started changing to every class, every lesson was real words out of my mouth, real thoughts, real struggles, because struggles were still there. The JCAP wasn't easy if you're doing it right. It was easy the first 2 months, no problem. Started doing it right. I'm like, a little bit harder than I thought, Fast forward, I'm in work release. And everything is just going great. The first 30 days, I come, because work release wasn't allowed to come to CR. And I'm like, I'm getting work release to CR. Here, present, Me and Jason Sizemore. Two of us come, pastor was picking us up in his car, personal vehicle. Push. Me and Jason were leaders. We did good. We kept showing. We kept preaching within the work release around our peers and stuff. And we just spread it. And finally, Heather Dessenberg led us. And then we got 2-3 vans full sometimes, didn't we? So it was awesome. Until it wasn't, right? Now we can't. But we'll talk about that in a little bit. Getting ahead of myself on that part. So my first Tuesday at CR, I'm in work release. Pastor picks me up in a Mercedes. It's me and Jason. We're looking around, and I come out on Friday. I go to work Monday. I'm going to CR on Tuesday, right? So this is all real quick. So that first Tuesday, I go to the beach. And me and Jason just have our cell phones. We're in work release. We're in jail. We're just hanging out at the beach. CR at the beach, grilling out. I'm like, this is how jail's going to be? This is pretty sweet, This is what recovery's like? Right on. It was cool, it was fun. So it was just a transition, right? It was weird. Tuesday happens, we come back like we're supposed to. We weren't running from pastor. I might run from the cops, but I would not run from that man. That was scary. So he was just stern, So Wednesday, no, it was that next Sunday, okay? That next Sunday, I have a pass. I have nowhere to go. I've already seen my mom because she came and had dinner with me on Saturday, my first Saturday out. So that was Friday I got out. Saturday I had dinner with my mom and my brother. All week I worked with my dad because I worked for Bruner Construction, my dad's business. So I'd seen all my family, all my immediate family. Sunday passed, I had nothing to do. But I didn't want to go home because I didn't have a license yet. It's the weirdest story. So this is how I found out I'm related to JB. Yeah, it gets better. So my first Sunday out, I go to church, just me and Sizemore. Pastor picked us up and then preached, I don't know how he made the time slot, but he did. I think they waited on him, You kind of have to wait on the preacher, don't you? So first Sunday out, I'm around a whole group of people, everyone in here raising their hands, hooting and hollering, having a good time. I'm like, dang, this is like concert, My relationship with Jesus wasn't there. And I'll bring you back to that point. I knew God, but Jesus was God, but I didn't see Jesus as God. You know what I seen as God? Like 2 or 3 people, individuals, that showed me what the love of Christ was like. But that's who I was like, okay, boom. That's God right there. Okay, I'm going to mimic that person. That's where my relationship was. Totally false. That is not correct at all, okay? But I was a new believer, and I knew this person loved like Jesus. He loved me for no reason, and I'm going to be more like that man, right? Not a bad thing, but it's a mentor. That's not God, right? So that's where I was with my spirituality. I was still developing. For a long time, I stayed in that mindset. I was reading the Bible because he read the Bible. I was reading, doing this. I was singing in church because he was singing in church. And that's our current pastor. That's who it was. I thought JB was God for the longest time. Very good friend of mine, but I'm distinguishing that JB isn't God, right? It took me a full year, and there's still some things that it's like, man, if I could be half the man JB is, I'll be all right. And that's still good because he's my mentor, but I got to separate. JB is not God. And I had a real close person that I love dearly kind of brought that to my tight. I'm like, okay. JCAP helped bring certain people into my life that were brought to me because of God. All this train of events wasn't New Life or Home Church Now. It wasn't JCAP. It was God putting all these chain of events in, all right? It's crazy. There's too many good people and too many good friends and too many relationships that have been built to have not been God. But those relationships, JCAP, those things did not make my recovery, Me doubling down on God and me searching, even if I didn't know what I was doing, because I didn't. My parents didn't grow up in the church. My dad believes, dang, that's right. I was going to say something about my dad long before this part of the story. Yeah. So my dad's not a believer. I'm just going to cut to it right now. My dad, okay, he is a believer. He doesn't believe in going to church. He doesn't believe in being taught by a Bible. He's just a good person, right? He will working for him. You can ask Chase. Working for him is a little bit different than, he's stern. He's to the point. You're going to do it his way, but he's still going to teach you. He's still going to teach you the right way, and he's genuinely a good person. If you're broken down, he'll stop and help you. That's the type of person, and my dad's a good person like that. Relationship with Jesus and God, and this is what he said, and this is probably a week, maybe 2 weeks ago. I was talking to him about my testimony coming up, about Jesus, talking to my stepmom because she's a believer. She's just not a churchgoer too. She has a Bible. She reads her Bible. That's not Jesus to her. So I was talking to my dad. I'm like, so Dad, how do you know God's real? He looked at me dead straight in the face. He said, because you're still here. Yeah. All right. who you are now and because you're still here. I mean, I didn't make fun of him and get up and leave the room and wipe my eyes, you know. There's probably a handful of times I can count my dad saying, I love you. That's just his generation. They don't say it. He just doesn't. But I know he does. And that was I love you, you know. That was I love you. Different words, but it had the same meaning, you know. So, clock's back there. 15 minutes. All right, we're doing good. Where was I? Just had the conversation about my dad. Where was I before my dad? Oh, great. We're going to start from scratch. So back when in 1989, fast forward it. Yeah, okay, JB being God and stuff. So I had someone that I love tell me that, you know, home church isn't God. Just like you said, this building isn't God. That screen isn't God. These people that you align yourself with are not God. So prior to that, I had read the Bible. I mean, I was in jail a lot, right? So I read a lot of the Bible. I'm starting to the point to remember scriptures and where they are and what books and what order, New Testament versus Old Testament. And I had the stories starting to come down, starting to remember that stuff, right? Because I thought God was the Word, which is true. God is the Word. God is also the light and the truth, right? There's many ways to have a relationship, and it's very hard to have a relationship reading the book. You know God's heart because that's what's in the book, right? The relationship is in worship. The relationship is in prayer. The relationship is in those things. That's what I'm learning. That's how you have the relationship with God, and that is how it is awesome. I come to church, my wife will admit it. She'll tell me right now, you come to church to hang out with people. 100%. I come to hang out with Huck, Brian Ryder, JV, Rex, Shauna, everybody. I come to church to just see everybody because I'm an extrovert. I don't know if you guys have figured that out, okay? My wife is not, okay? So I'm doing all the talking, moving around, and she's just like, yep, I'm sitting right here. It's cool, you know? She has her relationship, and everyone's relationship with God is a little bit different. And everyone projects God a little bit differently. I'm getting better in the workplace because I'm not going to lie. I'm still, I'd say 2 years, maybe max, being a saved Christian. 1 year of thinking that God was someone other than JB, you know? So maybe not even that long, maybe more like 8 to 6 months, and I still went back to JB for that. I'm going to model JB. He seems easier. He's cool. Jesus is cool. But he's a lot harder to model. You know, he was perfect. So I know JB's human. That's a little bit easier goal to obtain. So fast forward to since I've gotten out of jail. I'm not out of jail. Since I've gotten out of work release, still in home detention. I've said that. Remember, I'm just mentally thinking out loud now. The things that have happened since starting the journey in the relationship with Christ 2 years ago. I got it tattooed on my arm 2 years ago that day. The things that have transpired, I can't even tell you how good they are, other than this is how God works in my life. So a lot of guys in small group know, was in the market for a new vehicle. I was super proud of this. I was so ecstatic. I got the credit up. I've got everything done. Boom, 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 boom. So I didn't get the vehicle on the grounds that I needed a cosigner. Not on the grounds that I couldn't get a cosigner. My mom, a couple other people were like, well, you're doing really good. We want to help you. We want to support you. Well, I had made an agreement with my spouse that if these parameters aren't met, we're not going to get the vehicle. Well, those parameters hadn't been met because I had to get them. I didn't need a cosigner. That was the deal. I think, in my opinion, she may answer differently. I had her talked into having a cosigner, right? Have my mom, or maybe the next one we get, I'll just turn around and order the same one and then have cosign on that one if we have to. Thank God I reverted, or I think it was more her, told me no, and this is what we set up, you know, because I had one last thing from my past come up, and it was I'm just going to say it, a 25% garnishment on my check and or X amount of dollars. If I had gotten that vehicle, because this would have been 30, 45 days that I found out after I had agreed to this is when we were going to get the vehicle, right? That is only God because I didn't get that vehicle, right? There's the only way I can say it. And a little bit of my wife, too. Kick in the butt, you know. You're not getting it. We had rules. But I look at it as that's one thing. That's a prayer that I did not pray that God knew. Because it was a week of just, dang it, that was my goal. That was one of my main goals. I have reached every goal I had set out in JCAP. My 1 year, I met most of those in 6 to 8 months. My 5 year, I've met every one of those in a year and a half. I'm married now, you know, like, woo! My wife is awesome. She's here to support me. Another thing about your support. This is something else I was going to say about my dad. My dad is my number one fan, my number one supporter. He will do anything and everything he possibly can to help me. He will never, ever, ever be at my testimony. One, all my previous testimonies, I am so graphic because that's how I felt at that time. Mostly it was helping me, just laying it all out there, but it helped a lot of other people. I prayed on it. I didn't feel that I should have went graphic and went into the depth of my past. If anyone that doesn't know wants to know some more details and how I got through it and how bad it was, I can talk openly about it, and everybody knows that, okay? But I felt this was not the time to honor how crappy I was, but the time to honor how well and how much more God can do in your life as you grow in that relationship and as you trust him and as you deny yourself and say yes to him. Because it's all him. That's the only reason I'm still standing. It's the only reason I got such a beautiful wife. It's the only reason anything is possible is because of God. I think I got like 8 minutes. We can raise it up for question and answers, or what do you guys want to do? Yeah, I got a little. Oh, God has helped me in work. First of all, I know a guy named Rex Laughlin that risks putting his name down as a reference for Tecomet, right? So before I was working for my dad, I had no plans on changing careers. I'm good at construction. My dad's about to retire. He needs the help, still needs help. So I had to switch from an open-ended job because of the ankle monitor. I had to go to a factory or some spot I'm at every day, wherever. So I was talking to Rex about that, and I put an app in there, and I told him I did, and he's like, okay, I'll tell my boss about it, right? So I was there, 30 days, maybe, not even. Yeah, Rex lost me. So I was running a mill, running a machine for about 30 days, and then before I even knew this, my stepmom's sister, since third grade, her husband is one of the head maintenance guys, right? I seen him one day. I'm like, oh, hey, Don, how you doing? He's like, what are you doing here? I said, I started working here, I'm working here now. I have him on this ankle monitor. He's like, I'm going to get you to maintenance. I'm like, I'm okay here, just push and start. I had no intentions of staying because I got hired for thirds. I was getting trained on days, and then I was going to go to thirds, right? Well, I never went to thirds. I didn't stay in that department. Now I'm in maintenance. Now they're sending me to training. I'm going to July to get specialized training for these certain machines. All companies expense paid, It's not that. It's Chicago. It's not some extravagant Cancun trip where you get to learn about all these cool things. I still get to learn, which is cool, and they're still paying for it, which is even better, So I went from going right back to construction with no insurance and having to buy my own insurance, private 401k, no future, none of that. But I didn't know how to do any of that, So now I got full benefits, 401k, full-time job, 3 weeks off every year, So, and they're flexible enough that I can come in and still work part-time for my dad because I don't have to work overtime there. I can still do, because I love construction. I'm good with my hands. I do not like being indoors. I never stop moving. I keep going. That's the one thing through all my crap was I knew how to work. And I kept working through all of it. So God blessed me in an awesome job. It could potentially have no way, shape, or form not be a career. It could be a great career for anybody, really. And I'm learning a trade, not only that's specialized to Tecomet, Warsaw, Indiana. It's specialized to Warsaw, Indiana. It's specialized to any place that has a factory. It's maintenance. Any factory needs maintenance. So one thing my dad has always told me, he's like, his dad was so specialized in his job that he could only work in 2 places in the country, Warsaw and North Carolina. He chose Warsaw. Bad idea in my opinion. But hey, here I am, you know. So my dad went to construction. So he's not going to be like his dad. He can go anywhere in the country. How far did he move away? The other side of the lake, 3 miles. I'm like, oh yeah, good job, Dad, you know. So yeah, so go ahead, Rex. Ooh, you know, I got so many plans. Most of them is being a husband. Yeah, being a husband, living with my wife. I'm not going to lie, it's going to be a transition for my new stepdaughter and my wife, for them and me. It's going to be some struggles. It's in Columbia City, so the commute, you know, I have no intentions of leaving as a leader now. I have 3 weeks of vacation, and I think my wife has used them all. We got plans. We got a lot of days, so I might miss a Tuesday every now and then, you know. And another thing about missing Tuesdays, I missed last week, and I feel bad, but I'm so much more rejuvenated. If you guys need a break, everyone needs a break. Like, make sure you're not pouring out more and you're getting filled in. And that's what I was doing. I was pouring out here, doing community service on Wednesday. Most of the time on Sunday, I'm working behind. So it's not like I get the enjoyment being back there, and still here I get the enjoyment of it, but it's still, you're serving, you know? You don't get to immerse yourself and just relax. I can't worship during the songs when I'm back there. I got to follow and click the lyrics, you know? So I'm working. I can get some of it, you know? I get the environment, the atmosphere and stuff, but I'm still working. So it was always pouring out, and very little receiving, you know? And that's one of the things I've been faulting in spirituality. My prayer life has gotten a lot better in the last 2-3 months. I'm praying a lot more, doing better there. So the relationship is building, but now I'm slacking on reading the word, okay? So I need to read and pray, and it's a balance with everything, and right now I'm still trying to find that balance, you know? When that transition comes, there's going to be a new balance. So if I find the balance between now and March 18th, it's going to change on the 18th, you know? Lives change, and that's what we have to be ready for, change. I don't think, boy, nowhere in the Bible does it say your life won't change. It's going to be easy. It's going to be anything if you follow God. If anything, it changes pretty rapidly. I've had a lot of, 180 right there. Did not expect to be married. Yeah? You got a question back there, Daryl?
Yeah, I got a question.
Let's turn the mic up. Yeah, there you go.
I got a question.
What's your question?
No, my question is just basically asking you the 2 things you were getting ready to say, and you passed by about what you did when you first came out the Sunday, and then how you found out you were related to JB.
Oh, yeah, I did. I talk in circles a lot. Thank you for that. Okay, yeah, we can make this quick. All right, so Sunday, first Sunday out. I've only been in work release for a week. I've been incarcerated inside the jail for close to 2.5, 3 years. Sunday, good Sunday service. It was great. I had nothing to do for 6 hours, right? JB comes up to me before worship is over. He says, hey, Sunday, or after church, you're coming with me. Okay, didn't tell me what we're doing, didn't say nothing. I see Debbie get up and walk out, middle of worship. Her father was getting ready to pass, and they were bringing a hospice bed in. I had no idea I was going to install this hospice bed or help move things for this hospice bed. I had never met Debbie. I've only known Pastor from a few times in CR because he'd been going to Ukraine and stuff. And I knew JB from every Tuesday inside the jail. Good people. Love them to death. Now I am at Debbie's dad's house putting together a hospice bed. And I'm like, hey, I can go back to jail. That's easier than this. I can go back to jail. You can just drop me off. He's like, no, it's cool, man. You're family. From the get-go. You're family. So I was like, okay. Did that. Yeah, did that. And that was, church got over 11:30 probably. Did that. We were back at Pastor and Debbie's house by 12:30. I got till 5. Big dining room table. All the grandkids, all the family members, brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, cousins, whatever. A ton of people. I'm the only one that doesn't know anybody. Okay? They all start telling stories about Grandpa. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, yeah, I remember that one time I put his hospice bed together, start laughing. So I forgot to say, on the way back from JB's grandpa's, I'm riding with JB and an older lady. Older lady's in the front seat. JB had just gotten his truck. Okay? It's a 4-door short bed car. And I gave him crap about that. I'm like, this is a 4-door short bed car. Ironically, I have the same exact truck. We're not going to talk about that right now. I was making fun of it being a truck, but it having a short bed because I'm from construction background. If you don't have a long bed, you have a car. I can't put a 2x4 8 foot in that thing, So I was just giving him crap. Well, it's about a 15-minute drive from where we were, right? Old lady's in the front seat, and I'm like, I'm just giving them crap, not saying anything rude or nasty or anything like that. This is a real nice car, Bet ain't even got a scratch in it, blah, blah, blah. Nothing, just dogging on him the whole time, 15 minutes. This lady's not getting a word in. She gets out. I get in the front seat, shut the door. We're in the church parking lot. JB is dying, laughing hysterically. I'm like, what's going on, dude? He's like, dude, I needed that. He had to catch his breath. Took him a minute. I'm like, what is going on? What's so funny? I was just dogging you for 15 minutes. He's like, remember the story about how a church member, her husband had just passed, and I had bought the truck off of them. I talked to her kids first. He's like, yeah, that's the lady. I'm like, oh, man. So that was her. This is my first real conversation, like, oh. You let me go on? He's like, you weren't saying anything nasty, but man, I was inside. I needed the laughter, He had an intense moment with his grandpa and all that. He needed the laughter. And I'm like, well, I'm glad you can laugh at my expense. Wow, I feel bad. So we're at the dinner table, had a great dinner. Everyone's telling stories. I talk about, hey, how, blah, blah, blah. That one time I put the hospice bed together, Everyone starts laughing. And then, I think it was Kyra, because Kyra's very bold. And she's like, you get your tattoos in jail? Just like randomly. I'm like, I looked at Pastor, I looked at JB, and they're all waiting on an answer. I was like, yep, every one of them. Got all of them in jail. And then we just started asking. And then it was like 21 questions to Derek. Everyone asked Derek a question. It's not, they all got to share one story. I'm sharing a story for every person, So it's flipped on me. And it was just the love that they showed to somebody that was nobody to them it's just godly, They just, you can just tell every one of them loved God, and loved me for no reason, because that's what the Bible says, love thy neighbor, So I found out, I can't even remember the question now, and it went something like, oh, it was Alyssa. Alyssa straight up asked, she's like, hey, do you know Edna Bruner? I'm like, yeah, that's my dad's cousin's wife. And she's like, that's my aunt. So that's how I'm related. I'm like, oh, JB jumps up. He's at the table. He jumps up. He's like, see, nothing's weird. You are related. I'm like, God, it's still weird. Still, it's a tense moment. Well, what people don't realize is like a pastor and their family, they go through so much pain through helping others. They see so much death from funerals and stuff like that. It was a normal Sunday to them. Not only was it not a normal Sunday to me because I'm used to being incarcerated, it was I'm around people I don't know. It's death. I'm still uncomfortable from being out. Like, I'm looking over my shoulder. Like, am I going back to jail yet? You know, so there's so many things that I was going through, and they're just like, hey, how you doing? Love you. Have some food. So that's how I'm related to JB, by marriage. But yeah, I found that out, and he's like, see, it's not weird. I'm like, oh, still very weird, bro. But that's my story. I hope I, learned a little bit about my journey with God, and there's a couple scriptures in there. I can't quote them. Thank you, guys.